Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Ponte Vedra's Finest. Today I'm here with Patti Gilliano, and she's going to tell you a little bit about her business. So, Patti, tell us about your business.
Hey, thanks for having me on, Dylan. So I am actually a psychiatric nurse practitioner, and my business is Magnolia Integrative Wellness and Behavioral Health. And it's my own business, and I'd love to tell you a little bit more about it today, but excited to be here.
Thank you for coming. So, yeah, go ahead and tell me more about it. What all do you offer? What all do you do?
Well, for me, I love to offer people options for a lot of people who are busy during the day and can't take the time to get into a regular either behavioral health facility or a wellness facility to just manage either their wellness, fitness, nutrition, or if they actually have anxiety, depression, PTSD, ADHD, any number of those things. And so I do counseling and treatments over the computer as a telepsych type of a visit. So I can see people days, weekends, evenings, day or night. And it really fits into everybody's schedule that way.
I think that's a really beneficial thing about telehealth, telemedicine in general, is being able to get to the doctor. So, I mean, I say doctor, I know you're a psychiatric nurse practitioner, but being able to get to who you need to when you need to. So, somebody who works all day long, they can't just go to the doctor's office right after work. Sometimes they're going to be closed. So, having that accessibility is awesome. What made you decide to open your business and do it as telepsych?
Well, for me, it's a long time in my career, and I found that in healthcare over the years, our healthcare system's really gotten more challenging, more difficult, certainly more difficult to get access. And for me, I found that I really couldn't make a difference and help people in that larger scale way. So I decided that if I went back, got my nurse practitioner certification, that I'd be able to help people on a one-to-one basis. And in doing so, I think it's great because I can make myself available to people in the community and help people locally as well as, in different parts of the state of Florida. So it's just a great way to connect with people.
How long were you an RN before you became a practitioner?
Probably longer than I care to admit, but I've been a nurse for over 30 decades, 30 years. And I started just, back when, man, I can't even tell you, we did paper charting. And although some places still do that today, but I've grown up with technology. I've grown up with a lot of advances and ways to help folks. And I find that, with my approach, it's very integrative. So I tend to drift a little bit off the medical model. I don't necessarily treat people with medications first. And if people are on medications, I try to help them find medications that work because more often than not, I found so many people will tell me I've been on this medication, this antidepressant, this, for whatever. And there's so many things that go into it. I do testing to make sure that they're actually metabolizing that medication correctly. And so then we find out if it's even the right medication for them. And then in addition to that, I really work, like I said, from an integrative wellness model. And so I utilize a lot of work with nutrition and then activity. And I say activity because when I say the word exercise, so many people get scared. Like, she's going to make me work out. But really, you do have to keep your body moving to keep it energized and healthy. So we talk about sleep, we talk about activity, and then we talk about nutrition. And from there, we can really optimize. And a lot of folks have found great success in feeling better, losing all those anxious, nervous feelings because of the way we treat them. And many people have depression lift and things like that. So it's really been a great approach to help people feel better and get well.
And starting with those three key things, do you feel like
Mhm.
that creates more than just mental wellness, like whole body wellness, doing it that way? How do you feel about that?
Yeah, it really does. And, I had always grown up, even before I became a nurse, I was very involved in fitness and nutrition. I used to do aerobic classes, teach aerobic classes, and I worked at a gym. And so I found that that was a great way to maintain wellness. Well, that didn't pay the bills back then. And so I became a nurse. And when you combine those three things, it really takes it back to a sort of a simplistic level. But you cannot fuel your body if you don't put the right things in it. So you can take all the medications in the world, but if you're not eating enough or eating properly, all the meds you're taking really aren't necessarily going to work for you. So that's why I find that we develop a good sleep wake cycle. We focus on nutrition to make sure they're really getting enough protein and really trimming down some of those excess things that we love to eat. I always tell people to avoid boxed or processed foods because typically those are things that are either bioengineered, that's the new word out there today, but they're just not healthy for you. And then when you incorporate that with an activity schedule so that you are burning more calories than you're eating, you're going to optimize your body. And plus, you're going to keep your muscles fit and healthy. And believe it or not, that whole concept is how you really develop the body brain connection, because you can't just have your body work and feel good. You can't just have your brain work and feel good. They have to work in synergy.
And bouncing off of the bioengineered foods, the bad foods, how do you feel? I've seen this frequently now. So seed oils, like or canola oil, those processed things, is that a big part that you look at when you're doing this, or not so much, just more of eating more whole foods, that kind of thing?
We'll get down to the level that the patient's really comfortable, but you really do have to watch some of those seed oils. And, the closer you can get to some of the more natural organic type oils and avoid some of the canola oils and the vegetable oils and things like that, really the body just digests it better. And I liken it to the example of margarine. People used to swear by margarine, it's so much better for you. There's, no calories, you're not going to get fats. But if you take a tub of margarine and you put it in your garage and you let it sit there over the summer, the consistency of the margarine really doesn't change much. It's that same blob in May when you pick it back up in August. And that's what those types of processed boxed foods and those oils do to us. So yeah, we try to like give them a good variety of things that they can pick and choose when they're making foods and eating, or even eating out.
I think that's awesome because a lot of people, they look at it, and me, it's just an inherent bias. You think, okay, I'm going to get prescribed a medication because of whatever's going on. I'm not going to look at anything else. I'm not going to look at my overall well being. I just need a medication that's going to fix everything. So to
Mhm.
break it down to that and look at overall wellness, I think that's important. And I think that's really cool and nice to see someone doing that kind of thing instead of just, I guess, pushing pills is what you would call. Do you?
Exactly. Yeah. And that's the hard part too, because so many people have grown up in our society used to, well, I have a pill for that. Well, I have a pill for that. Well, take this and you'll feel better. Take this, I'll fix your heart. Take this, they'll fix your diabetes. Take this, take this. And after a while, people just think, oh, I need to go get a pill. It's really not. It's you just have to really reevaluate and kind of reprocess how you utilize your body. And I tell people this all the time. You want to eat to live, not live to eat. And when you have folks that go, hey, it's breakfast, what are we going to have? And while they're in the middle of breakfast, they say, hey, what are we going to have for lunch? And at lunch, it's what are we going to have for dinner tonight? It's that whole mindset, right, of thinking about food. And really, you just eat to keep your body energized, to keep going. It's like filling the gas tank. And I have people on the opposite end of the spectrum, which is really interesting. They don't want to overeat. They don't want to eat too much. And I just had a woman the other day and she has salads and soup and she's tired and she's dizzy. And I said, well, my gosh, let's check your blood sugar. Let's check your blood levels. She really wasn't eating enough protein. And so I'm excited to see, because we just got her started this week. I'm excited to see, is the dizziness going to go away? Is she going to feel better? So that's the kind of stuff that we see. It's really fascinating. And a lot of it shows up on the blood work too. You can kind of see where people are, what they're deficient in, vitamin B, B complex, omega 3s, your D levels, all those things. And they really contribute to your overall health and your mental wellness.
And that goes back to that whole wellness. I do think that is awesome.
Mhm.
With you doing this, it being your own thing, what is your motivation behind it? And what drives you to do this?
Well, there's I think it's an interesting story, because I have been a nurse a really long time and I have been involved in wellness a long time. I had spent the last 14 years in executive leadership in several different hospitals across the country. And during the time COVID hit, I had just gone into a new position. That position kind of got recreated and I ended up traveling around to different facilities over the United States. I ended up getting COVID and I went to one of my hospitals. I was very sick. I was in ICU. And for somebody like me who runs 2 miles a day, I'm a big Orange Theory fan. I try to get there almost every day. I was completely debilitated. I could not function. While I did recover and get out of the ICU, They left me 2 weeks later to go home on oxygen. I was on 5 liters of oxygen, and probably a lot of people know, one, being on oxygen is not great, but when you're on about 5 liters and you cannot function, you cannot walk, and you can't drive yourself, I was devastated that my life could be taken away from me so quickly. Fortunate to live, but then the state that I was left in, nobody knew what to do with me. And the only person who really cared enough to heal me was me. Nobody wanted to touch me back in 2020. So I created a cardiac rehab program. And through the support of people in my community, a place like Orange Theory, actually, because I was out of state at the time, they let me come in and train. And it was a very basic, rudimentary, just from the ground up, restarting, retraining. And then I was able to do some really cool integrative medicine, and I rebuilt myself. And so that is how and why I ended up on this journey, realizing that the last 3 years have devastated people emotionally, mentally. We get into anxiety, we get into depression, we get into people who have had real trauma from either having had the illness or from having loved ones die completely unexpectedly, and then also not being able to see them. And so that's what launched me into deciding if I'm going to go back, because they asked me to go back for my doctoral degree, in the position I was in. I said, well, that was not on my bucket list as a nurse. I said that about my master's degree too. So I went back and I found a program that was in psychiatric nursing. And I said, you know what? I'm going to help heal as many people as I can through the whole mind body continuum. And I'm going to do it in such a way so that people that are struggling with all the things from the last 3 years, it all feeds into it, and diet is a part of it, and activity and exercise from social isolation and all that. So that's kind of what launched my plan to develop Magnolia. And that's what brought me here today.
That's awesome. Taking a personal hardship and turning it into something that can help other people. I
Yeah,
mean, that's pretty motivating to me as well. That's
it's a
awesome.
journey.
Absolutely. It is a journey, but because of that journey that you took, you're able to help so many other people. And I mean, that's really cool. So is there anything that people would say, let's best way to word it. So with your business, is there anything that people don't know about it other than what you just explained? Like something behind the scenes that's cool, anything like that?
I think as far as just the philosophy, it's hard to tell that from my website, without meeting and talking with me and finding out if how I can help incorporate what, your beliefs or other people's beliefs are on wanting to become well or better and heal. It's really hard to convey. That's why I love, these opportunities and why I have my own podcast. But yeah, I think for me, it's one, the accessibility. People are so busy, and I try to teach people to not be so crazy busy and really balancing their life. So I'm accessible, days, evenings, weekends. It really works for people, evenings and weekends. And then the fact that, just the whole telecommunication, through the computer, a video chat makes it really easy for people to get with a professional provider, talk it through, come up with a plan, and meet back regularly and consistently. That you just don't get that when you have to go into a 9 to 5 and open and close the doors and turn on all the lights. And, it allows me some flexibility because I do have a little bit of low overhead. And then I think eventually, as I grow, I will probably try to pick a good point location where most of my clients are, and maybe open up a small, hang it out on the door, sign, and be available for people, more on a, face to face. But for right now, this is the best way I think that people can make the time, make the commitment, and really stay, focused on what their goals are.
Would you consider that a long-term goal to get your certain place for your practice? Is that
Yeah,
long-term?
I think long term, absolutely. And some of the services and things I provide, I do partner with some other local, integrative outpatient facilities. So some of the technology that they have and use there isn't something that I would necessarily have or use with my own counseling services, but I'll refer them there, and I often do spend some time working up there too. So I think being able to branch out and grow to either be a good feed for some of those other local psychiatric facilities, outpatient facilities, that also do integrative type work, is my long-term goal. And then to have a place to, be able to see people one-on-one in person.
And you mentioned your podcast. I know we talked a little bit about it before we got into this recording, but
Yeah.
tell me some more about your podcast, what it is and how it relates to all of this.
So my podcast is Wellness Uncensored. And again, it got started for the same reasons because in the last 3 years, I found that as a nurse, prior to becoming a nurse practitioner, I was in various parts of the United States and in different phases of either helping people, getting sick, recovering, and then helping people again. And people were reaching out through social media. And so I found that I ended up having this, what I call an underground. People that wanted to know if what they were hearing was true, people wanted to know what they should do. They often tend to reach out to nurses because we're really there. We see everything. We're on the scene. We're there 24/7. And having been a nurse for such a long time, I had developed this following of people. And I was able to help a lot of them either get through, survive, find additional ways to heal with COVID that was not necessarily the medical model. And again, because I am unconventional and I've seen a lot of great alternative therapies work, I was helping all these people and talking them through, and especially in that scary time when they couldn't see their loved ones in the hospital. And I decided that now that I'm a nurse practitioner, I really needed to continue with all those folks and everybody else as we start to learn more and more and more and hear all kinds of different things to try to funnel it all together and give them the best wellness advice that I can find. And so I bring on different people. This coming January, I'm going to have another integrative physician on. I have someone who's helped people heal through trauma with music. He's actually the screenplay writer for one of the major motion pictures, Lethal Weapon. And so it's really kind of cool, the people that I've come across having worked all over the United States. And so Wellness Uncensored, it's actually on Thursdays at 3 p.m. Eastern. And I'm not really good at all this, but when I tell people, they get it, that are big podcasters. If you go onto any of the major podcast sites like iHeartRadio, um, Apple iPod, and there's a few others, all you have to do is type in Wellness Uncensored and my podcast pops up. So that's the easy way to find me. Just look for that. And yeah, we sometimes are off the cuff. And like I said, we don't always speak to the generic medical model. And, that's what I love about this country. So I like to provide alternative ways for people to think about things to be healthy.
That's awesome. And if you can take it from every different direction, here, there, conventional, non-conventional, I think that's how you find wellness. It's just not a one way fits all. One approach is not going to work for everyone. So I think that's really cool.
Yeah, and the funny thing too, and I learned so much more about alternative therapy through my younger son who got really sick as a child, a baby, 12 months old. And I had physicians telling me, well, if your kid's sick like this and he's vomiting, he was, vomiting 8, 10, 12 times a day. I've seen kids do this for years. And here's some medication, just give it to him. That's what started my questioning. And now he's 25 today. And yeah, he knows what he has to avoid because he's got a lot of immune issues and allergic type stuff, but never had to have him on meds, grew up healthy, really retracked him with his whole growth and height because he was really lacking when he was a baby. And it was because I met a microbiologist in California. She's written several books. And like that's the thinking that I think people have to realize is there are alternatives. There are other ways besides just this method. And over the years, it's interesting because myself, I had developed a condition called frozen shoulder. And the medical term for it is adhesive capsulitis. Well, after having my first one, and again, accidentally bumping into someone who knew someone else, and I was just about ready to go for surgery. They talked to me about PRP, platelet rich plasma. And I was living in Vegas at the time. I went to Miami, phenomenal physician. He injected my shoulder with platelet rich plasma. And within 4 weeks, a 9-month battle of this shoulder that was not only locked down, because people said, oh, your shoulder's cold. It was locked down, painful, grueling nerve pain. My shoulder was better. So as I developed my second one, I decided to spend more time learning about it. And I wrote a book on it. And now I treat people in a holistic way. And I refer them to people for PRP injections because they heal. They're a tremendous healer. So these are the kind of things we talk about on the show. And, again, it's not limited to just one thing or just mental health. It's the whole wellness of the individual because they're all so integrated. So it's pretty exciting. I'm really loving what I'm doing.
I like this. I like what you're doing just from this conversation that we're having here.
Cool.
Yeah,
Well,
this is really neat. Do
mhm.
you happen to have anything else that you would like to share with people watching this about your business? Anything you want to throw out there?
I think just the fact that I'm accessible. The Magnolia website, it's the one that we had talked about. It's Magnolia Behavioral Wellness.com. And my actual number that they can contact either for an appointment to either call, or they can even text. That's the other thing. How many people are so busy? They just have to call or text the 904-377-1196 and just leave a message of how they'd like to be contacted and for what. But I think just my approach, it's pretty unique. It's just a matter of getting it out there to people, because I'm not a big franchise. I'm not a big business. So, word of mouth, I think, will be, a good friend to me, and just our networking, I think, is going to be great. But yeah, if you want a natural approach to healing, love to have a chat with you.
And then I've got one more question I'm going to ask you. It's my favorite question of every interview that I do. And
Okay.
if a young person asked you for advice on how to live their life, what would you tell them?
Oh, I love that question. Gosh, I don't even know how I would wrap that question up quickly, but I would say be true to yourself, stay grounded, do what you love. And if you do what you love, you will find a way for it to make money for you so that you can live comfortably. I never say to people, shoot for money, because that's not going to bring you happiness, but do what you love and you'll find a way to make money at it. The other thing is to really just, you know, you can move fast, you can try to, shoot for the stars, but always make time for yourself. And I teach this to all the people that have worked for me, and I try to live it myself, but you've got to make at least 1 hour for yourself every day, whether it's meditation, running, standing on the beach, and that's what really brought my husband and I back to Florida too, is because we knew this was where we were most grounded. I love living in St. Augustine and Volano Beach, and just being here is my grounding every day. So it gives me 23 hours to go do everything else to help people. But I really do believe that you got to make time for yourself.
Yeah, that is awesome. I think that is phenomenal advice. And I
Cool.
think that's amazing. So to wrap it up here, I'll let you give everyone your phone number one more time. So that's the best way they can reach out to you.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, it's 904-377-1196. Text or call.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for talking to me today. I'm sure everyone's going to enjoy this video, and I really appreciate you stopping in.
Thanks, Dylan. Look forward to talking to you again.